All right, the vote for the 13th round for Speaker McCarthy, or at least that's what he's hoping to become,
Exactly.
coming up a little bit short once again, but making great progress today. And we are awaiting the formal announcement of the results. Let's go to Kilmeny Dukart, a congressional correspondent on Capitol Hill. Kilmeny.
Bob, Katrina, good to be back with you. Again, interesting to note just in this last go around, small progress. Congressman Andy Harris from Maryland, he flipped his vote for McCarthy. That totals 15. That's certainly a better projected outcome than what I was hearing earlier from members about what this framework would yield in terms of votes for McCarthy. Just a short time ago, we had reported on a press conference with GOP members that had changed their vote today. We had heard from Congressman Perry, who talked about how the framework of this agreement will allow us to move forward in good faith. He also said it provides accountability in the motion to vacate. That was one of the components of this that we had talked about, moving that number from 5 to 1. So one person can essentially call a vote of no confidence in the speaker. Now, we also heard from Congressman Chip Roy. He said what we've agreed to in this framework, our message is to the Speaker-elect McCarthy, is that the framework serves as a template to which we're going to hold him accountable. But there's also been a lot of talk, particularly from members, about how historic this is. Certainly, the mainstream media has reported this as dysfunction within the Republican Party. We heard from Congressman Byron Donalds, who said the American people have witnessed a deliberate process about the future of leadership in the people's body. That is monumental. So the lawmakers that have been negotiating this deal and that have gotten the framework to this point, they believe in it. They believe that this is going to change the way the House chamber functions. Now, in terms of what happens from here, we know we're getting a little bit closer to, again, the magic number, which sort of keeps moving throughout this entire process. So I want to explain just an atmosphere. We're outside, again, the House chamber. And what happens is as these votes are taking place, members are on and off the floor, going into small breakout rooms and continuing to negotiate this through the afternoon. We know we're getting closer, but we don't know exactly if it will happen today. Those talks continue, and certainly those who have been convinced to put their votes for McCarthy and are moving forward with this framework agreement in good faith have been speaking to their colleagues that are still holdouts on the House floor.
All right, Kilmeny, thank you very much. It looks like we're at that point. Cap, we've been watching this how many days now?
4.
Since Tuesday.
Yes, since Tuesday. That's right.
Some of the conversations a little less animated.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is Friday, after all.
I think that also the conversations have been made. We're actually down to the point where if you were to get a couple more votes, the outcome may be different here. If you get a couple more flipping, depending on how many vote, we're going to have at least 217 or 218. Mr. McCarthy up to 214 at this point. But we do expect some certain people to be back to vote later today, which may change that number.
Right. Congressman Buck and Congressman Hunt expected to return later today. There's still 6 holdouts, though, who have not voted for McCarthy, but apparently he needs 2 of those people to flip in order to get to that magic number.
All right. Rick Santorum joins us, former senator from Pennsylvania. Rick, your thoughts here?
Yeah, that's the magic number is 4. Getting that opposition down to 4 really doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, Ken Buck and Wesley Hunt, it'd be great for them to come back. But the bottom line is, it doesn't really matter how many. It matters if it's just a handful of Republicans leave. You still need to pick up 2 more, because all the Republicans leaving do is lower your number, but it lowers it by losing 2 Republicans. So it doesn't help you in the end. So unless a Democrat, and there was a Democrat that was missing earlier in the day, that person is back. And so as long as the Democrats hold to their number, the Republicans have to get all but 4. And of the 6 left, 4 of those 6 were part of the group of 5 that said they would basically not vote for Kevin McCarthy under any circumstances. Interestingly enough, one of those 5, Ralph Norman, voted for Kevin McCarthy, not this time, but the time before, and again this time. And so you're down to the two that didn't sign that original letter are Eli Crane and Lauren Boebert. Now, Boebert has been one of the more outspoken of the opponents, so I'm not sure she's gettable anymore. But that gives you the idea of who you're working with, and it was really interesting to watch. I was sort of surprised Andy Harris was one of the holdouts in the previous vote. Not surprised that he switched this time, but you could sort of see that coming, because if you look at the screen, the 6 people who voted no all sat next to each other in a row, sort of huddled together, and you sort of watch how the dynamics work. When you're hunkered down, you hunker down with people who are with you, and they were all sitting together.
Hey, Rick, there has been some chatter from other media outlets saying that McCarthy's concessions have gone too far and that might actually compromise some of his existing allies. Do you think that's remotely possible, or are people pretty much set on who they're going to vote for now, even despite the concessions that have been made?
Yeah, I don't think these concessions were, frankly, that monumental. I look at most of the concessions are things that conservatives have wanted for a long, long time, things that I've been fighting for, and I'm very, very happy with a lot of the concessions that were put in place. It's going to make governing the House harder, and I understand that one of the hallmarks of the House. I served 4 years in the House before I served 12 in the Senate, and one of the great things about the House that people loved was you could pass a bunch of bills really quickly. The speaker could sort of run things through. You didn't offer, you didn't allow amendments or limited amendments, and you could just ram through a bunch of legislation. To what end? Because in the end, they have to go over to the Senate anyway. Most of them get held up. And it really, what it does, it creates this animosity or antipathy between the House and Senate, because the House moves real quickly and gets a lot of bills done, and then they die over in the Senate because the Senate has rules that make it really hard to pass a lot of bills. So slowing the House down ultimately doesn't really have an impact on the flow of legislation. It just has an impact in making members have to be around longer, have to, as many of them complain, have to be on the floor, actually debate, actually offer amendments. Those things that are, at least in the current House, when I say current, the last 10, 15 years, but even more so under Pelosi, have sort of gone by the wayside. People don't go to the floor. They don't offer amendments. You're not allowed to. It's run with an iron fist. And I think members justifiably said enough of this. And so I think it's a good thing is what's happened. Now let's get to it. There may be more that could be done. But at some point, you've got to sort of take your win and move on. And again, I understand why people are dug in. But I think we're sort of reaching a point, at least from my perspective, where it looks more personal than it does trying to make the House work better.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting
the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
real news
For real people.